Welcome to another episode of Question Everything. Today, I have with me Dr. Don DuBose, who is an interventional psychiatrist in South Carolina. He owns multiple practices. He's been successful at creating a multi-million-dollar business as a solo doctor. By day, Don helps people resolve treatment-resistant depression using innovative and cutting-edge technologies. By night, when he's Superman, he helps doctors escape burnout and the grind of running a practice while balancing their personal life through his brand new coaching program. Don, welcome to the show, man. Superman of doctors. Tell me
That's
about
great.
this. This is crazy.
Oh, hey man, I just had to whip it out today. But hey, that was like such a great introduction. It's like you've done this before.
Yeah, time or
Thank
two.
you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate the time.
I appreciate having you here. I know a lot of doctors and a lot of people that have practices that are facing what seems like since the pandemic, just this overwork, overwhelm, and we saw it on the news that the hospitals were just overflowing with people. And just being a doctor, like people think that, you go to be a doctor and you make all this money and it's freedom. But if you don't understand business, then you've just got yourself an expensive job. Tell us what are the problems that you see that doctors are facing?
And you hit the nail on the head. Like COVID did change things, and the news did emphasize how the hospitals were blowing up, but they really de-emphasized how much mental health has been stressed.
Yeah,
There's just more and more demand, more and more patients, and there's only so many psychiatrists, there's only so many therapists, and many people are just struggling with this overwhelmed type of situation, both the patients and the doctors.
right.
And you would think with all this demand that doctors would be like, rolling in the dough, just like easily running their businesses, but that is definitely not the case. So what I'm seeing, and this is from my own personal life, is doctors who are overworked, they are stressed out, they're maxed out, and they're ready to tap out. And the last thing we need to do is have doctors so burned out that they quit when the demand is higher than ever. So my job is to share some of the blessings that I had in my career to discover some different ways to approach a practice that allows it to scale and make more money while simultaneously reducing the amount of time that you spend face to face with your patients. So you have more freedom, like true freedom,
Yeah,
you have more peace, because that's what everybody wants,
right.
more so than money. And you can have that balance that you want between like serving and taking care of yourself and your family. And that's the secret sauce that my coaching program helps people discover.
Man, I know there's a doctor somewhere watching this. Like that sounds amazing. Especially,
It is.
um, I know before we got on, you had mentioned, um, I'm not even gonna take the words out of your mouth. I'm gonna let you talk about it. Um, the frustrations that come with having to be everything in your business as a doctor that's already a high stress job, right? Like not leveraging there were three T's. Talk to us about
Yeah,
those
I'll get
three
to
T's.
three.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I'll let
yeah,
you guide, man. I'm mind blown at how no one's thought of this before. Like this is truly innovative.
it's funny you say that. I think like you ever had like your 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 parents tell you to do something, and when you
All the
hear them
time.
tell you to do it, you're like, man, I know what they're talking about, and da 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 da, and you go learn the hard way that they were actually right, right? But if someone else comes and tell you the same thing outside your family, like, man, Coach so and so told me this, and you can receive it, right? I think some of the things that I teach are things that people kind of intuitively know,
Yeah,
but when it's stated in a different way
yeah.
and it's demonstrated in a different way, you can say, aha, right?
Mm, Yeah.
it makes sense. Because one of my God-given gifts is to make something complex simple,
Mm.
right? And that's why I feel like I've been successful as a psychiatrist is to help people get these aha moments. So I think I definitely want to tell you about the three T's, but before I do that, we need a little bit of context. I want to share a little bit of my personal story of how I got to where I'm at right now. Is
Please
that
do.
cool?
Yeah,
Yeah,
please
yeah,
do. Well, they need context.
yeah,
This just doesn't come out of the
yeah. Yeah. So if man, I really have a lot of empathy for the people I work with because when I first started my practice, I wasn't planning on starting a private practice. I felt like I was called to start a private practice. So like a lot of doctors, they go to school and do their residency, and then I did a fellowship, which is training past residency. But we're all kind of trained like, oh, when you're done, you're gonna get a job, you do a great job, right? And then some of us, a percentage of us say, all right, I'm gonna start my own practice. Most of us will join someone else's practice because it's established, and a very smaller percentage will start their own thing. So for me, I started my practice out of desperation. So I was actually still in fellowship training when I started my private practice because I was going through a custody battle with my daughter at the time. So I was a single dad during med school, and my daughter's mom, had planned to put my child up for adoption, because I didn't know that she was going to exist. So when I found it out, I ended up taking the baby, and I had my daughter since she was maybe 6 months old. And I kind of went through the bumps and bruises of med school as a single dad. So that I think that kind of gave me some resilience. So fast forward, several years later when I'm in my fellowship training, my daughter's mom had a bug in her ear telling her that, oh, fathers in South Carolina don't have rights to their own kids. You can go after him for child support, even though she's living with him. So she came after me, trying to get me to pay her child support. So I'm freaking out and consulting with a lawyer. And the lawyer's like, yep, she's right. So I was battling trying to get my parental rights for my own daughter and custody rights for my own daughter that's been with me since she was a baby. And shoot, doctors don't make any money in residency. I mean, we make a little bit of money in residency. So it was just a lot of stress trying to do my training, trying to raise a kid, trying to find money to pay these lawyers. And I just literally, I prayed to God. I was like, God, please, I need some help. I was trying to get a moonlighting job outside of my residency. And this is a true story. I was driving down the interstate and I was praying in my mind and I was just like asking for deliverance. And I remember pulling off the interstate on my exit, and within probably like 10 minutes, I got an email from my program director. A private practice in town was looking for a resident to come work at their practice in private practice. It was like instant prayer answer in that moment.
Whoa.
And I never thought about doing a private practice, and God just delivered just like this. And
Won't he do
I
it?
think like one of the things that's important to me is just like understanding that there's something outside of us that is looking out for us even when we don't look out for ourselves.
Mm.
And for me, that's Jesus, and that's the Lord just guiding my steps. So fast forward, I started this private practice. Earn more money on my private practice on the side than I was making in my residency, just working part time, and it made me believe that wow, private practice might be something I could do. And you know, one of the big kickoff points to really go all in on private practice and is after I graduated my training, I did take a full time job. I had my private practice on the side, and I had a patient that I was working with at the time, and he kind of grew up with me. He was like one of my first private practice patients. And then I finished my training and he finished college. And then I got further along in my career and he got married and had a baby. And this was one of the rare patients I was actually doing therapy with. And I, I was seeing him once a week. Um, it was just like I grew up with him. I knew his wife and I would hold his baby, during the session sometimes just because I love kids. And, this gentleman had a diagnosis of depression. And like many people with depression, the meds don't work all the way, you know. And like many people with depression, a life stressor can make you go way downhill. So somewhere along the way, his wife was just exhausted with trying to take care of a new baby and take care of a husband that was debilitated by depression. And she asked for a separation. And he just went down to the bottom of that pit. And I did everything I knew to do for my training to try to help him. I was changing his medicine, I was intensifying the therapy, and I was, you know, bringing in other partners to help him, and all these different medications and things like that.
Mm.
And this goes on for weeks. And finally, he comes in for a session. I just made a med change a couple weeks earlier, and he says, "Dr. DuBose, like, man, I really feel like I'm starting to come out of this pit. Like, I'm so thankful for you just not giving up on me. And I feel like I'm getting better." And I was like, "Yes, awesome, really good. I'm really glad to hear that." He was like, "Hey, normally I know we normally meet in 1 to 2 weeks. I gotta go out of town for a business trip. Maybe we'll meet in 3 to 4 weeks this time. But I have felt a lot better. Thank you so much." And he gave me a big hug, and I was just like, "Ah, thank goodness." All right, because this was something I'm saying that every single week almost. So he leaves. I go about my day and finish up my clinic for that day, and I get a call the next morning, and sure enough, I found out that he had left my office, went to a church parking lot. He called his wife, she wouldn't answer. He started texting her, had a conversation. She stopped texting, so he emailed her. She gave him one email, and he didn't hear what he wanted to hear because she didn't want to come back home. So he took a gun and he shot himself in his head in that church parking lot. When I found out that, I was just like devastated. And like everything that happened up until then was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is crazy. This is stressful. It was the first time I experienced suicide in my career. And then I was freaking out because he literally left my office and killed himself. So I was heartbroken about the loss of somebody that I cared about as a patient. I was heartbroken about the loss because, I knew his wife and his baby. I'm thinking about what about his baby? It's like literally 1 year old almost. And I was also terrified about getting sued or the family hating me or I'm getting, losing my license. I'm still early in my career.
Right.
I was panicking. So fortunately for me, God always puts the right people in your life.
Right.
Right? I know you can attest to that. Um, so I went to my therapist. Absolutely, right? Well,
Yeah.
uh, one of my therapists came to me and she was just like, you got to go to the young man's memorial. So um, I didn't want to go. I just knew that I let this family down. In my head, I was going to walk in and the family was going to spit on me and slap me and serve me a lawsuit or something like that. So I was just terrified of it. But, after much encouragement, I decided to go. And my plan was I'm going to go in, I'm pay my respects, shoot the deuces, be out, right? So I get in. Of course, I'm the only black guy there. All in their vibes, standing out like a sore thumb. And sure enough, his mom sees me from across the room. And this was kind of like the wake, we call it a wake here, of the viewing. And the mom walked through, the crowd came straight to me, and my heart was just like boom, 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 busting through my chest. Because I just knew she was going to slap me in my face. But instead, she looked me in my eyes and she grabbed me by both my hands with her hands. And she said, "Dr. DuBose, thank you." She said, "Thank you for trying to help my son, trying to inspire my son, taking care of my family. My son would always come home and tell me the things that you told him to try to inspire him. But it's unfortunate he lost his battle with depression." She starts crying. I start crying. And she says, "I know you did your best, but I have one request for you. Promise me that you'll do your best to not let this happen to someone else's son, to someone else's husband. someone else's father. And I don't remember anything else from that conversation. But man, my heart broke when she said that because deep down I felt like, did I really do my best? Like, was there something else out there that I didn't know about, that I didn't search hard enough to find to help him? And that was my calling, that I had to start a private practice to serve people with depression. Because if I didn't do it, who else would do it? And that was my thought process at the time. So for me, the private practice was a calling. And I started my private practice with no support. And I started doing a treatment called TMS, or transcranial magnetic stimulation. It's a brain stimulation technique for depression.
Mm.
And I just went all in on it, bro. Uh, I bought $100,000 machine I had the money for. I rented a space that I couldn't afford, but I was just so called to do this that I felt like if I just jumped, I figured it out later. So that sounds like a great story, and I think it is.
That, that is an incredible story. I had to take my glasses off so I didn't get all the tears in the bottom here. That's wild. I felt like it was going there at some point, but then when you said you got the call, it was like, oh man. But then when his mom, like, you know, it's never what you expect it to be, right? But there's a couple key things that stood out to me is, you were new. You followed everything you knew to help. And what you knew to help wasn't the thing that actually helped. It felt like, how our mentor talks about, how people will teach you theory or they'll pretend to help you so that they can charge you. That's what the system felt like to me. Anytime I've gone to a doctor, it's like they pretend that they're going to help me. But when I give a list of my problems, they're like, let's just start with one. Okay, we're going to prescribe you this. This creates this problem. Okay, we'll prescribe you this. And then before you know it, I'm roped in a cocktail of drugs in a haze. I'm not myself and I don't want to be this anymore. And the only solution is oblivion, right? Like that's what it feels like in that moment because you're not living from your heart anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when when you had this revelation, it's almost like this had to happen in order for you to serve so that this wouldn't happen. And what mom told you was that catalyst. The reason you don't remember anything else in that conversation is because the most important thing you needed to know from that conversation was, please, for the love of everything good, don't let another man or woman have to go through this. That's powerful, Don.
Man, I tell you, but so many people are just struggling with this right now. It's like I know, we want to get to the three T's and culture, but really like it. There's so many people that's just struggling with like just this pain and suffering and anxiety and depression, and it's like an epidemic. And I worry that because of our relationship with our phones and our relationship with this world, that people are just falling into despair. And we need people that are just committed to helping people not fall into oblivion, like you said. And that's honestly that's my deepest mission. And I realized through my journey that I can't serve and save everybody, and it behooves me to teach others how to serve and save as well, and that multiplies my impact for that charge that mother gave me. And really, my coaching program was kind of born out of that. But it's also born out of my experience with trying to fulfill this charge.
Yeah.
You know? So, for me, like when I started to practice with this dream, it put me in a situation where I had to work a full-time job to make the money to pay the rent, and pay for the machines that I bought, and I ended up being the marketer and the closer and the administrative staff and the doctor and and the nurse. I'm like doing everything,
Wow.
trying to make the ends meet, and that was super stressful because I still had a family, had my own kids, you know, and a lot of doctors I meet, especially in their early parts of their private practice, found themselves in a similar situation where they're working to almost like you can't turn it off. So you're getting stressed out. You're not available for your family. So that's creating problems at home. And you're making money, but you don't have any peace. People want to leave. Or people just grit their teeth because we're all trained to like just push through. Just grit your teeth and get through. And that's what I was doing. Right. So
Sounds,
I found a way out of that though.
yeah. I mean, and that can't be good for anyone involved, the doctor, the people that come see him, the family that's involved, like his family, his friends, like no one's winning there. Well,
No
I'm
one's
really
winning.
curious to see like how this turns around and what you've
Oh yeah,
developed
definitely.
as a result.
Yeah, brother. It's just like, just as people started telling me, I was reading these random statistics, it was like the psychiatrists have the highest divorce rate. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm kind of seeing this at home.
Mm.
And I was seeing the stress it was having my kids, and here's how I started getting out of it. So by the time at this point, I'm maybe 3, 4 years into my business. I'm working like a dog. My hair is turning gray in my beard. You know, my practice is getting off the ground. We got people coming in the door. I finally got a little bit of staff and team and things like that because people believed in that story and that mission and that vision that I had to help me hire people to come in to help me. And my practice is starting to get off the ground. But even with that, I just noticed like I'm making more money, but my expenses are going up, and so is my stress. And I couldn't get out of that loop.
So real.
And so here's kind of the catalyst for me that kind of got me into it. I realized that I couldn't do it by myself. I was trained to be a physician. I was trained to be a prescriber. I was trained to be a therapist. You know what I'm saying? I know how to treat patients. Well, being real, I don't know how to run no business. So the South Carolina come on. I ain't know how to do it, right? Um, so out of desperation one night, I was just like online and I was kind of like there was some I was just searching like for coaches and like your computer starts following you around and showing you ads and stuff like that. So I ended up like putting my name into this website that helps you link to a coach. And man, I might have got like 50 calls from different coaches, man. And it was so overwhelming. I was like, man, I can't deal with no coach. These people just calling me trying to get paid. So what ended up happening was there was one coach out of that batch that was just persistent. And he would call me, and he would text, and he would email, and he would call and email and text. And he nurtured me into that first conversation. And he finally got me on the phone. I was like already in the stance, like, man, I ain't working with this cat, man. I already ain't spending no money on no coach, whatever, whatever. When we get on the phone, just so happened that his first name is Don too, and I have a kind of uncommon first name. And he was like, he was so compelled by like where I was at with my burnout and what my mission was. He's like, bro, I will work with you for like 30% of what I normally charge. That's what you can afford. That's what, you'll pay. It's like, just give me 90 days. And I was like, all right, bet. No, I'll try. And man, that was probably the best decision I had in my life was to hire a business coach. Because I didn't know business. Right. And and I still work with the same coach. I mean, I've hired other coaches along the way just to kind of help in the other niches. But one of the biggest things I did was hire a mentor, right? Because I think sometimes we try to figure it out on our own. You just don't have enough time in your life to figure it out. You need someone that can guide you and accelerate the process. And we can't be too proud to accept teaching. And that was the first turning point for me.
So powerful, man. And you're right. You
Yeah.
don't like real brief story. So one of my mentors early on in my career as a UX designer, it told us the story about how it took me 20 years to get here. And I like to connect dots and figure out how to collapse time because I don't want to take 20 years to do anything, right? I didn't even want
Right.
to take 20 years to get to 20. uh, I get a call from him one day, like, who do you think you are, basically? You can't just come in here and then just be in the top level. That's not how it works. I'm like, why not? You told me everything not to do. You told me everything that you struggled with, and you helped me collapse the time. So you should be, you know, grateful that what you're doing is helping others to not make the same mistakes as you, not put them through the same process you went through, but help shortcut that growth so that you don't have to, like, everyone, the reason the world is moving so fast is because everyone's experience, for those that are wise enough to learn from other people's experiences, is collapsing time to get from where you are to where you want to be, bridging that gap, right? And I ended up getting to the place that he was at a lot faster than he got there. And then he started to see the light, and he started to come up, show up and serve himself, because he wasn't a part of the community before. But I found that when you network and when you're in community and when you're connected to the right people, your growth skyrockets, especially a coach or a mentor, right? So, man, that's what's the rest of this journey like when you connected with this coach? How did this turn everything around for you?
So this it's really your story too. It's like he collapsed the time for me. I was learning from the bumps and bruises of doing stuff, right? I'm trying this and trying that, and you know, trying to hire bad people and attracting patients, and it's really not the type of patient that was kind of fit for my practice. I was learning, but it was slow. So just like you said, man, it's like the power of a mentor is to shrink time. And really, of those three T's, the first T is time. So when I coach people, I try to give them perspective of how valuable their time is. The only thing that you can spend that you can't replenish, right, is your time. And as a physician, like your level of expertise is so specific.
Right.
No one else can do what you do. So your time has to be used in your high value spot, and you have to delegate everything else. And that was something I just had a hard time letting go. My coach helped me understand that, and it collapsed my time, right? And really, the perspective is, and what I learned was, I started realizing that the more time I spent working on the business, the more money we made. If I spent more time in the business, seeing patients, et cetera, I actually made less money. And it was very counterintuitive for me. Like, dang, I'm used to seeing, 15 patients a day, and then I'm doing calls at night and stuff like that. And I was generating income from my work. But when I stepped back and actually worked on the business and redelegated my time, it actually brought more customers and brought more recognition to the practice, and attracted other people that wanted to work for me because I was out doing other things that was of higher value. And that was a big learning lesson for me. Is like I had to leverage my time differently and do the things that only I can do at a high level, and even better, do the things that I love to do that only I can do. And everything else I had to learn to leverage my team, which is the second T, is building a team that can work autonomously away from me. And that was big for me. So those were kind of the big two first steps to getting me some momentum and some freedom from kind of a trap that I was in, you know. And then there was the third T. So the third T is technology or tactics. So we figured out that my overhead was going high because I had so much staff.
Yeah.
So we're starting to get some success. And I'm starting to get practitioners under me, and I got staff, and we're getting like all these calls, the phone's ringing off the hook. So guess what? I got to hire another front desk person, and I got to hire this other person. And then, we had an experiment having a call center. I hired a whole call center who was getting like 30,000 calls. I can't manage that as a small practice. It's ridiculous. So it was just like we were using so much man hours to get stuff done because if you're a doctor and listen to this, if you think about it, when you see a patient, insurance is going to be like, hey, you did this 30-minute appointment, we're going to pay you this much. We're not paying you for your staff member that has to do with prior authorization, the staff that has to answer the call, the time when someone calls the patient back if they need something, the time you spend to call in refills. There's all this time that you and your team are spending, and you're only getting paid for that 30 minutes face-to-face time. And for me, it was like, okay, we got to figure out how to automate some of these things so that the amount that I'm earning with that face-to-face time goes further.
Mm.
So we started leveraging technology, and we automated our phone tree. We have a right at this point we have an AI that texts patients back, and it sounds just like a regular person, but it can fulfill refill requests and things like that. That way, I can have one person. They can manage almost all the calls with just one person because people prefer to text than to get on the phone for the most part, right? And they just get a list of things that's coming in, and they say, "Oh, this person needs a refill." Send it to the right person. Oh, this person needs to schedule an appointment. They'll text them back 3 available appointments. They just pick one. And now, instead of me having 10 people doing this job, I can hold it on to one. And that's just an
Wow,
example of like automations in the practice that allowed me to be the one like full-time physician and leveraging all the other team members, including nurse practitioners and PAs and things like that, that can render most of the services. And I can just sit at the top of the pyramid and just, share the vision, and then they go do it. And that's how you use the 3 T's. You leverage your time differently. You build a team that can work autonomously, and you have the right technology and tactics to keep those gears going in your business.
man, that is so powerful, and it it's a universal principle, right? Like if you manage your time well and you build a team, and technology doesn't just have to be like technology like computers. Technology could just be a simple system like a pulley system, which brings to mind leverage. Technology is just really leveraging, right? So automation, delegation, compound interest of leverage. Uh,
Yes.
man, that's incredible. And the fact that it's a big hole in the market that people need, and you found it and you're filling it. That's
Mhm.
what a business is. I can't tell you
Yes.
how many people I've been talking to lately that they approach the business with what they want, what they like, who they are, what time they spent doing this. And you've been through school to be a doctor. Like you could easily just be like, how many years of experience I have, how much stuff I went through, and talk about you all the time, and let that ego inflame, right? But you choose to flip that on its head and serve at a high level.
Mhm.
So it sounds like to me you're helping doctors to become doctorpreneurs.
It is. You took the words out of my mouth. That's the transformation. So the transformation is when all of us finish our training, you are you are a 0.1 percenter that
Mm.
has such a unique body of knowledge, and you're great at that. But guess what? You spend so much attention and time and energy on being that 0.1%, you neglected everything else. You don't know how to do that stuff most usually. And then in our culture of being a physician, then you got to do continuing medical education. And then you got to keep up with compliance of this and this and this. So all your energy is focused on being a doctor. So your skill set and everything else is a lot smaller. So the transformation for me was like, since I had the time, I was able to make a transformation from a doctor to a doctorpreneur.
Mm.
That still be an expert in that. 'Cause I spent most of my career learning that. But now I have a new skill set through mentorship that allow me to run a business like an actual business and not just an expensive job. But that's what I had, expensive job. You
How many of y'all out there right now feel like you have a really expensive job where you pay to work and you have no
Yep,
time and no fun?
yep,
Man, come on.
bro. And the first time I got like a major tax bill, like once we crossed that 7-figure mark, and because I said, I'm gonna have $1 million practice. I'm thinking like this, like once I kind of saw how it could be a business, like, oh, we're gonna make $1 million. Yeah, I got that tax bill, my boy. I was like, oh my God. And it definitely was an expensive job. And that's part of the team. Like the team is not just people in house; it's people outside of your practice too. That's part of your team. So for us, a major thing was getting a tax strategist,
Yeah.
having that third party like not just do your taxes, but teach you the strategy of how do you structure things to protect yourself from taxes. Because unfortunately, that's your biggest expense is your taxes. And that's just an example of your team that some doctors don't think about. And they're using an accountant over their business and getting murdered in taxes. So, I think my life experience has been one of it doesn't matter, what the school taught me, because, I think that's the default. That's like the foundation of everything that I do. But really what mattered is understanding that my business is three tiered, just like the three T's. But I
Mm.
realized like for this to really work, I needed a North Star and I had to treat my practice like a ministry first. Because
Mm.
that way, if I treat it like a ministry, I'm in a position of service at all time,
Yes.
right? And I'm there to serve my patients. I'm there to serve my employees and contractors because I'm helping feed their family. But also, man, when you work with people, life happens, and I want to be that steady presence that they know they can come to me and I can give them the right advice so they can have peace. There's a work culture that I can minister to my people that's working with me, right? And then also, I realized I can minister to other people that's been in my position that are struggling with their practice so that they can have some freedom and some peace with their practice. So, some ministry first. Two, I realized I need to do stuff like podcasts and talk to great people like you. But the practice, secondly, and this is advice I give to the people that I coach, your business has to be a media company too,
Mm.
because you can have the best service in the world. You can have the best people and the kindest people. You can be the best at what you do. If nobody know who you are, and no one doesn't know you, like you, or trust you, there's no opportunity for you to scale your practice outside of just seeing patients. Right? So my company had to become a media company second. And third becomes a service industry. So if you accomplish the first two things well, your business, which is the service industry, gets fed. Gets fed. You create an audience and you create a culture. And you'll never run out of the right type of people that you want to work with. So that's that's been my journey, man. Just learning those hard lessons, learning some the hard way, learning some with coaching, and I'm really focused now on just like meeting like-minded people because you become more like the people you hang around, and we're trying to elevate up in here.
Yes, sir. Um, we're not trying. We are elevating.
Facts.
We have elevated. I can't tell you the conversations I have today. Like, for example, I text Ahmed, or no, I called him. He texts me back. I'm on the yacht with Myron right now. Let me call you back when I get to land.
Oh, sweet.
And I'm like, what universe have I entered where someone that's on a yacht is going to reply to me? One, two, they'll call me back when they get to land, and three, they actually did call me back, right? Um,
Yeah.
the conversations are different in these rooms. The mentality is different in these rooms, and like I love how you said mystery first, right? You the first thing that you're doing is serving. You're a media company because when King Solomon got the wisdom, he started to create content. He started to
Yep.
put stuff out there, and he used what common things to teach uncommon lessons. Those parables, right? The same way Jesus taught. Got to tie those metaphors together, and
Hmm.
and we have to use our experience to collapse time for other people. And I'm so grateful for people like yourself, like that are doing it in a place that it's like you are saying it and everyone else is thinking it, but you're the one that's actually doing something about it, right? Like it's that unspoken elephant in the room, but you're actually making the change.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I think there's nothing that I probably said on this podcast that people just don't know of.
Hmm.
It's like, but since they're not able to manage their time and they can't install these ideas,
Hmm.
right? It's like it's just something that needs to be understood. Is like when you do this though in your practice, it's like it's a force multiplier.
Hmm.
It's like most doctors, if you're asking why did you get in this field? Oh, I like to help people. I want to help people. So most doctors by nature are servants, right? Who want to serve, but they're limited by one factor, and that's your time. There's only so much time that you can spend with patients, how much time you can do serve, how much energy you have to do it. And when you learn these tactics, and you learn these principles, and you learn this mindset shift, it multiplies your purpose. I can serve so like we have like 5,000 patients in my practice. I'm one doctor. There's no way I can see 5,000 patients as a psychiatrist without like putting these principles into play, and it has to be intentional and still only see a few patients a week. And I know that's unbelievable, but we do it every week. We do it every single week.
Wow. So I'm sure you have some testimonials behind this method, like how it's working and how people are responding to it.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we've you know we it's crazy because literally I've had some of the people I coach literally make one move, just one play. It's like watching Super Bowl. You know, the play is hand the ball to Saquon. Give Saquon Barkley the ball, right? That's the play.
Yeah.
I remember one play, and then they see it level up immediately. Like
Mm.
for example, I have a practice that I coach, actually in my vicinity, in my community, that are not direct competitors. And one thing that we did was they were really struggling because you know cost of operating goes up, cost of living is going up, so their employees were asking for raises left and right, but they weren't bringing in a lot more money because insurance reimbursements, because they're insurance based, is only incrementally growing up piece by piece. So one play we ran was real simple. Was we started doing so. Well, Myron teaches about continuity model. Like
Mm.
you need someone's gonna pay you, buy it once, you keep paying month after month.
Yeah.
And I learned from my experience that is a hard sell in mental health. It's a hard sell. People
Yeah.
don't want to spend $14 a month, $10 a month. Like they don't look. I tried to sell a program for $9 a month, and then it was $4.99 a month, and then I was like, nah, why can't I sell it? There's so much value here. You think they would want it, but they don't. So the tactic that we ended up doing was we started doing like a administrative fee. So we found out that insurance covers X, Y, Z, and in the contracts, most of the contracts, and it may be different from state to state. For our state and for our insurers, it was like we will cover this, but if you do things outside of what's covered here, you can charge cash for it. So I had us we drew up some documentation with a lawyer, and we clearly defined what that admin fee was. I was covering this in the office and this service and that service and this service that is not covered by your insurance. Therefore, each time you come, you're going to pay an extra $10 per visit. And there's two separate transactions. They pay their copay and they pay for the visit, and then they pay the $10 admin fee. And just by running that one play, it brought in $100,000 for that practice in that first year and installing it. And don't get me wrong, some patients like, oh hell no, I ain't paying $10, da 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 da, and they left, and we was like, sayonara, because we were building a place where the service was so good you couldn't match it somewhere else, and we had built so much demand from the other tax that we were doing that when they left that seat, the new people coming in didn't know any better. I was like, okay, cool, $10, right? And it said within the culture, what's you see other businesses do? Hotels, you go to a hotel, Expedia said this much, you get there, you got to pay this fee and that fee and this fee, you just pay it. Why not pay it when it comes to your mental health? And that was the mindset that practice adopted, and just like one play, $100,000 over the course of that first year. So that was a win, and it was exciting to see them, install that play and win on that play.
Wow. Yeah, that's a major play. And then I just thought, you know, words are so powerful. When I see fee, it
Mm-hmm.
feels like a punishment.
Mm-hmm.
When I see, I'm trying to think of another word. Like if you change,
Yeah.
what would happen if you changed it from fee to like, um, I don't know, something that makes it feel like,
A reward instead of a punishment.
right, like
Yeah.
I'm grateful to give this because it's like service charge. I don't want to say charge, service,
Yep. It's
like,
hard, isn't it?
right, like gratitude, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not
Like,
grateful for you. You're not.
yeah,
Okay. Well, and then you know, you're sad, and then, okay, okay, I'll pay you.
yeah. It's hard to do, and we
Yeah.
ran into the same thing too. Like we um we don't call it an admin fee when we talk to the patient directly. The paperwork says that.
Mm,
Um, but it's very difficult to say charge. It sounds punitive. If you say fee, it sounds punitive. You know, if we just kind of add in, hey, you have additional uh, payment of blah blah blah. We just call it payment. But the paperwork says, I'm an administrative fee. Here's why we do it. Da 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 da. And we give them to sign it on intake, and it lays everything out. You know exactly what they're paying for,
mm.
because really it's not as much of a burden for a patient because it depends on what they're doing. So, and I'm giving the whole play. So they listen to this and here's the play. And you want to run it, you can run it. You know, use your lawyer. But basically, what we did was you don't do it on federal insurance, so you can't do it on TRICARE and Medicare because you can't do that for federal. But for commercial insurance and cash pay patients, you can.
Mm.
So that raised the value of each individual patient when they came in. And then, of course, we have patients that came in like 6 times a month. We may have some special ones for those people. The
Yeah.
average person, when we did the data, said the average person comes to our practice once every, I think it was like, I can't remember, it's been so long ago since we did this particular play, but the average person came in about once every 3.6 weeks. So
Mm.
really was only charging them like technically $13, $14 a month. They ain't miss. So people used to it now. So I think that's this example of some of the things that you can just do in your practice just to free yourself up, make more income.
Man, this is incredible. Like, I know some doctors out there are like, ah, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I see that? Right? It's
Yeah.
because sometimes you're too close to it to see
Mm-hmm.
where the change could be.
Mm-hmm.
So I I know there's somebody watching this that's like, okay, okay, cool. Like, how can I work with Don? Like, where do we go?
Yeah. Um, for my coaching practice, we just made it real simple. Website is fixmypractice.org. It's real easy. So you can go to fixmypractice.org, kind of see what we do to try to transform your practice. You can schedule a consultation with us, and you'll do a free exploratory call. Can I hear a little bit about your practice? Maybe give you a little bit of pearls and share about what we do. And then if you want to work with me, I'm more than happy to work with you. We here's one special thing that I do, and we just started this. So this is another play. One of the plays that we ran when I ran the numbers in my practice was just the value of an advanced practitioner. So advanced practitioner, nurse practitioner, PA. Some people are very comfortable with them, but a lot of people aren't. They're not leveraging like that relationship. So on one of my coaching programs, I actually coach nurse practitioners that work for these private practice owners to increase their clinical skill, improve their clinical reasoning, to to just make them more sound clinicians, to lower the anxiety that a practitioner may have or a psychiatrist may have of hiring those types of people. Because I think people are worried about the liability or the quality of the service. So we built into our coaching program training for your workforce. We'll teach you how to hire them. We'll teach you how to vet them, you know, and we'll help connect with some of the schools we have relationships with to help you find them. So I think that's an unbeatable value for people
Yeah.
I work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have to agree. Um, Sorry, I just take a note there. Um, my mind is blown, right? Like, we've just gone an emotional journey, and there's an incredible solution for anyone that has a practice, and it's available. Um, Don, like, I think one of the gems of my podcast is I don't really get to know my people that come on the show until they come on the show. So we're both equally surprised, right? Because this is the first time we actually had a conversation deep enough,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
to understand. But I think I think that's the thing about question everything is I'm genuinely curious. Like, I don't know too much, so the questions are genuine curiosity. Um, Is there anything else you want to share with the viewers today? Anything else you think they should know? Any parting words? Any questions you want to leave them with?
Man, I would say this, like if you hear this podcast, just like really question where you are in your life and your career. Like, are you really at peace with it? Are you really satisfied? Is it serving your family? Is it serving your spouse? Is it serving your kids? Or is it just serving your bank account and your ego?
Mhm.
So for me, that was the question I had to ask myself, and I was willing to make some changes to, get to a space where I knew that I could be present for my family and still serve at a high level. So I leave it with that. Just really self-examine where you are now, where you like to be, and if you need help getting there, more than happy to try to help.
Excellent, excellent, man. That is beautiful. Get out of that ego, get back into that spirit, show up and serve. Man, stick around after this. I'm gonna exit a different way than I've ever exited because I got my little clipboard. Make sure you
Yeah.
subscribe because we are doing everything on the official Question Everything channel now. You may see this on the official G-Wiz, uh, my artist channel, my official artist channel. Like the views are not growing over there because it's an official artist channel. People are trying to listen to music and they're interrupted with some
Yeah.
value and they're like, what is this? It's a commercial? I don't pay for ads. So yeah, Question Everything Design. If you're already here, thank you. If you're not, head over to that channel and subscribe. And with that,
Let's go.
be bold, be courageous, be strong and courageous, be bold. Do everything you do with passion. I promise you'll have a life that you love.
Awesome, bro.